What is up, wrestling fans, and welcome to this pay-per-view prediction episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast, where we're going to be talking about AEW WRESTLEDREAM taking place this weekend at the Shea Fetz Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. To tell that I'm not from the area, but what we're going to be doing is going to be running down the card and giving our predictions on what we think is going to happen at the show. And who are we? Well, I am your host for this edition, Callum Wiggins, and joining me for this is Robert D. Felice.
Hi, Callum. I must say you make my wrestle dreams come true.
Ah, you make my wet dreams come true. Sorry,
Well,
didn't mean to say that. Rude. Bit lewd, but that's fine. We're taking the reins of this one because Toni is sunning himself in Brazil with very bad internet connection. We tried to see if he could get involved, but that was a bit of a no-go. He's left us his little predictions so we can bring his thoughts to the conversation, but we also want to hear what your thoughts are in this conversation, which is to leave a comment below. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know your thoughts on the matches we're going to be talking about and who you think is going to be winning and losing. If you're listening to us through some other medium as well, then your thoughts in maybe in Discord or any other forum, you can get in touch with us, social media, or anything along those lines. And just follow it along. I'll save the plugs till the end of the episode because I just want to dive straight into this show because we have 10 matches to talk about, which are 8 matches on the main WrestleDream card and then 2 on the Saturday Tailgate Brawl. But before we actually do get started on that, are there any matches that you anticipate being added to the WrestleDream card?
Yeah, I think we're looking at Kenny Omega versus Josh Alexander in a singles match. And I think that's the way to go because not only because I think they were scheduled for something before Kota Ibushi got injured, unfortunately, but I think that if you have Omega and he's healthy, you probably want to try to squeeze a pay-per-view match out of him.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't turn down a additional Kenny Omega match at a pay-per-view. I think that it is quite interesting that like the route would be Josh Alexander, considering the fact that he was recently taken out by both Cole Fletcher about over a month ago, and then Andrade a couple of weeks ago in his AEW return. But it'd be Josh Alexander is the one that you would give the nod to. Obviously, we know that it won't be Cole Fletcher because of a match that he's currently booked for on the card. But as far as I know, Andrade is available. So,
Admittedly, I did forget Andrade because I was so focused on the angle that occurred.
to be fair, it seemed that they forgot about him as well because he is now just in the background for the Don Callis family.
Which is funny because he only just got there.
Yeah, AEW does have a kind of a recurring habit of like debuting guys to this big fanfare and then just slotting them into the miasma a little bit, which I think they do need to improve upon. But yeah, they seem to have felt that way with Andrade a little bit. But yeah, as I say, a match between Omega and Alexander would be really good, and it would give Alexander a chance of a bit of a spotlight as well in the singles match because I don't think he's been like lost in the shuffle, but he is kind of just a member of the faction as opposed to, he's not Fletcher, he's not Takeshita, he's not Okada, he's a level below that.
Yeah, I think this match should have happened in Canada just because I think Alexander was really pushing hard for it. But Alexander was also there when Omega got taken out before the Toronto show. So I think you could get away with a singles match like that. I think you could also get away with doing Omega and maybe partnering him up with someone else against Andrade, Alexander. I know Mark Davis is back. Maybe if you can find 2 partners for Omega, I would suggest Jurassic Express, but it looks like they're doing that on, TV. So we'll see what happens. But I think Omega
Jurassic Express have a match at WrestleDream as
That's
well.
right. They also
So,
had the match
yeah.
against the Bucks.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about those matches when we get onto the main card stuff. But let's start with Saturday's Tailgate Brawl, which they're no longer being considered obviously 0 hours. This is a TV show that will be taking place on TNT in the lead build up to it. They're almost treating it like a pseudo episode of Collision now. So we currently have 2 matches scheduled for that. I presume that when the actual show does take place, it'll probably be more likely built up to 4 matches potentially, maybe with these are probably the two main matches that will be taking place on the show that will probably sandwich any other things that happen. But we have Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale taking on the top gods of Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. Fun name to attach themselves to FTR now as top guys. Now they're top gods, so that's good.
I do like that.
So this isn't a match. This isn't a tournament match for the women's tag titles. This is just these two are feuding now. Willow Nightingale's been feuding with FTR alongside Jet Speed, which we'll get to in the other match. But Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford have aligned themselves as FTR, and Harley Cameron is basically just everybody's friend, so she's hopped in to battle on this occasion. So I think that you probably go with Top Gods as the winner of this one. Just to be fair, like you could have either way, but I don't feel like that Top Gods are going to be a tag team in the tournament whenever the tournament gets started. I don't think they're going to go with Willow and Harley as a tag team. I think they'll have other options available for both of them. So I think that you give the win to the more established and the tag team that will be more important going forward.
I don't love the idea that they're just sticking Harley with Willow. It seems like Harley teaming with everybody is a very strange move to me. At least because I think Willow is established enough that she should be. If she's going to be in this tournament, I think it should be with an established partner. I know, obviously, they went a different direction with Stat, but just weird to me, and I would give it to Top Gods just because they're an established duo.
And the other match is the other half of the kind of Top Gods, Top Guys faction with Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood facing Jet Speed. It's a good match, or it seems like on paper just to be a good match to put on. We haven't really seen these two teams go one-on-one too much as of yet. We've seen them in like other multi-man iterations. But it's one of the best tag teams in modern history, FTR against a really up-and-coming team that's really got some good chemistry going together in the months they've been together. So I don't think there's really a wrong option with this one. You could try and shock people a little bit with the Jet Speed victory, because I think most people are expecting FTR to win because they still have unfinished business with Copeland and Page at some point. They're probably the more ready-made to take the tag titles off of Brodido if they decide to make that move in the future, or if Brody or even tag team champions after WrestleDream. But I think I would go with Jet Speed just because I feel like it's a good win over an established team, and FTR don't need to win every single match.
I'd probably go with Jet Speed as well. As probably the lone person who feels like it was odd the way the things ended for Cope and Christian. Not because of how it ended with them, but because I understand Cope went away to look after his family or in real life film. Why isn't Christian on TV? Why has he just all but disappeared for the last month? And I kind of, maybe you'll agree with me here, I'm kind of at the point now where they've moved far enough away that I'm not sure I want to see it again. Like I kind of feel like, okay, we got the one and done with Edge and Christian and FDR. But maybe that's just me feeling that way in particular.
I mean, I would be fine if they are moving on, because I wasn't a huge fan of their match at All Out anyway. And I think that, I just think the way they did it with like taking out Beth means that they can't just draw a line under it. It would seem like a really weird way of approaching it. It's like, okay, I took out your wife, and now you're not coming back for revenge at any point. You're just going to come back and wrestle Sammy Guevara or something. Like, I think you have to do some kind of follow up based on that, some sort of hardcore street fighty, dog collar match type deal. But yeah, I guess the reason why Christian's off TV is just because Nick Wayne is injured, and that's the match they want to do. They want to build up to, and so they have to wait until Wayne is healthy enough to compete again.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, I'd say that like it would be better if he was doing something, or at least like they were building up to that in the meantime. But right now, it just seems that they're on a bit of a pause with Cope and Cage, which is it's fine if it gets some younger guys and girls on TV. Then I think that's totally fine. But
Agreed.
yeah, but now we move on to the main card itself, and let's start with the trios match. The Hurt Syndicate versus the Demand, a rematch from a recent episode, the recent episode of Dynamite, which is also a rematch from the All Out. So, I don't think that I would have gone in the direction of just doing another trios match after the street fight. I understand that you need some kind of rubber match because, like, it's 1-on-1 based on the Demand winning it All Out and her Syndicate winning the street fight. But just another trios match where you've kind of established that MVP can fight and do the brawling stuff, but when it comes to an actual match dynamics, he can't live up to his partners. You've kind of already told that story, so going back to that match, you're just gonna like retcon that original thing and just have the Hurt Syndicate win again. So I don't know. Do you think that there's some sort of change or some sort of thing that's going to happen to this match to mean that it's just not another trios match?
I think the right thing to do, regardless of who the new member is or who the replacement is, the right thing to do is have MVP come out on Dynamite or Collision, since it's the 3-hour show on Wednesday, to say, "Hey, I told you I wasn't wrestling again, and here's the replacement, and it's whomever you wish to fill that spot with." But I think if he just wrestles again, then what was the point of the street fight? You should have done
Yeah,
the street fight here.
yeah, exactly. That's what I would be thinking as well. So I think that there's definitely a good chance that they have some person ready to come in to fill MVP spot in this match. I hope that it's not based on just reports that Cedric Alexander only signed a short-term contract with TNA, that it means he's coming in as well, because it's fine having like these like veteran guys coming in, but surely you should utilize the remaining years of the Hurt Syndicate to bring in fresh blood and use their standing and stature to elevate someone who'll be in your company for the next like 5-10 years, as opposed to someone who would just be there for the short-term pop of okay, or let's simply be there for the no longer really than the same amount of time as the other guys in the promotion. I don't know who that necessarily would be, because I don't, as I'm not as well versed in who's making waves in the independent circuit or who's like coming through. That's kind of like a young guy, or even someone that's currently on the AEW roster that would make sense for that extra role. But I hope that that's the direction they go in, as opposed to uh, just doing another trios match, which like either the Demand wins or the Hurt Syndicate wins and just retcons the initial win from the Demand in the first place. So I think either way, I'm going with the Hurt Syndicate winning, because my mindset is they're either debuting a new member and they need to have that new member get the victory, or they're not debuting a new member and they're just going to retcon the entire thing for the first one. So that's the two routes that I think, and either way, that means the Hurt Syndicate wins. So
I gratefully want the former, because, like, I don't want them to just retcon things. I think that would be a bad habit to start falling into. But also, no matter what happens here, I think this match should factor into the Trios Championships and trying to move those belts away from the Ops.
it seems there's a good chance they might be moving them. Well, I say moving them away from the Ops, or good chance they are defending the titles on Wednesday's Dynamite against LFI. So there is potential, considering especially what Samoa Joe is doing on this show, that it could be the time to move the trios titles off of them. But yeah, I agree that this should have some implications at the very least regarding the trios titles and trying to get them back into a more regular rotation again. We move on to another a one of these the rarest sights on an AEW card, a women's singles match with no championship or gimmick attached to it. So it's Jamie Hayter versus Thekla. Rob, do you know the last women's singles match which had no gimmick attached to it on an AEW pay-per-view?
I cannot say I do.
It was Britt Baker versus Soraya from, I believe that was
That was Full Gear 2023.
2022, I think, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a first in about 3 years for
First
AEW
of all,
to.
that's a problem across the board in professional wrestling. We need to get comfortable with women's grudge matches.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's okay to just have women wrestle women without a title being online.
Yeah, so it's good that this match is taking place. Obviously, these two will be prominent figures in the upcoming women's Blood and Guts match. So it makes sense that these two would be going against each other. I mean, Thekla made her debut attacking and taking out Jamie Hayter for a while when she was dealing with injuries and visa issues, I believe. So it makes sense that we're finally getting around to that match when Tekla's spent most of her time on the roster beating the shit out of Queen Amanata. She finally gets the match with the first person she started the feud with. So this should be a lot of fun because these two are really good. I think it'll be very physical because Thekla has no regards for her own safety and Jamie Hayter hits hard. It's kind of in the name. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they work together or how they the chemistry between them. And I think that they'll go with Thekla getting the victory because I think it just makes more sense for the heels to get the victory leading into Blood and Guts because not necessarily the babyface is going to you win Blood and Guts, even though that's what's happened most of the time. It's just you want to build up more sympathy or more heat for the heels leading into a match of that magnitude.
So what do you want? Like, how would you like to see the build to Blood and Guts go from here? Because
Um,
it's been pretty. I'm not gonna say it's been weak, but it's a weird slow burn, which is strange because sometimes it's just like, hey, we're doing Blood and Guts, and that's happening in 2 weeks, and that's that. You
I
know?
think yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's the main issue that there is so far with the Blood and Guts thing. I think you need to get this pay per view out of the way, and that's probably part of the reason. But the main issue is the fact that we don't know who the teams are.
Yeah.
Like it's happening in a couple of weeks' time, and we don't know who's the five for the heels and who's the five for the baby faces, or if they're even doing 5 versus 5 or whatever configuration they're going with. Like the presumption is that on one side you have the Triangle of Madness and Top Gods, and that's their five. And then on the other side, you have some configuration of Jamie Hayter, Willow Nightingale, Statlander, Toni Storm, Harley Cameron, Queen Aminata. There's multiple different choices you could have for the babyface side, depending on what direction they're planning on going with. But I think that you need to settle that first of all. But then there's also cases like, well, are they going to throw a Mina Shirakawa or a Mercedes Moné? Does she want to do Blood and Guts? And if she wants to do Blood and Guts, she'll probably get to do Blood and Guts because you just
Yeah,
you
I
just
think
drop
if
you
she
just drop
wants to
Penelope
do Blood and
Ford.
Guts,
Yeah,
I think if she wants to do Blood and Guts, she would have been made it clear that she wants to be front and center in the build up to Blood and Guts.
yeah. So yeah, I think we need confirmation of what the teams are first of all, and then I would like to see. I mean, they've historically done the coin toss thing rather than having like a one of those matches to help determine which team would start it. I think it's better to do it as a coin toss because it's just more old school. And you just always describe that like the heels have some sort of rigged coin, and then they always win in that regard. But I think that yeah, I think you just need to start like amping up the intensity of the feud between these ones. Like I was not a fan of the tailgate brawl of All Out with the uh, that street fight they did, which I thought was too cartoony and too childish in the build up to Blood and Guts. I know they used things like the staple gun and stuff, but I thought that it was a bit too hokey rather than showing actual like violence between them. I think you need to now ratchet up. I would even say that you you should try and get blood in this match if you can.
I agree. I can see there being a benefit to that.
But how do you see the match going?
I would just because I think you go with like the heels winning before the big one. I put Thekla over here, even though like it's hard because Hayter needs some big wins too. So maybe you don't go with Thekla, but I would, and then I would try to by the end of this show establish who the fuck's in the blood and guts.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would personally go with Tekla as well because I think that there's more wiggle room for Jamie Hayter to be in the tag tournament than Tekla, because Tekla, obviously, she's part of a trio, and the other two are the tag team of the trio. So I think Tekla's going. We'll talk about this in a little while. I think Tekla's the next one up for the women's title. So
Like
it
to
makes
win it or to challenge.
to at least challenge. I don't know whether she'll win it or not. I think there's a good chance, but like I don't. I think she'll at least be the next challenger for the title. So whereas you can pair Jamie Hayter up with Alex Windsor, I think, and make
Yeah.
that a tag team.
That's right. Even though they do have Windsor pretty steady on ROH, but I'd like to see her back up on the main show.
Well, let's just pivot that over into the other women's match on the show, which is Kris Statlander defending the title against timeless Toni Storm. So it's a rematch after Toni Storm lost it in the Fatal 4-Way, and she has asked for a one-on-one rematch. And they're doing the kind of respectful, but we're just every opportunity we're going to beat the shit out of each other, but we respect each other and we're kind of into each other as well. But we kind of just subtext into that. But then again, Toni Storm's almost is into most women that she
Yeah, I was
competes
gonna
with.
say
So
she's into everybody she wrestles now.
yeah,
Like
well, that's she's a bisexual icon, and
she really is, and she's
we
leaning
stand
into
her
it.
for it. Yeah.
She's leaning into it, and uh, I know everybody loves it. I think this is an easy stat victory. Like she needs the strong win to establish the fact that she's champion now, and I'm more interested to see where Toni Storm goes from here.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting component going into this match is that it seems pretty nailed on that Kris Statlander wins, but it all depends on what the kind of future holds for Toni. Because I think that there is not a minuscule possibility that Toni turns heel in this match and uses that to cheat to win the title back. And I wouldn't go that route because I think it's just too soon to do that. I think if Statlander was a more established champion beforehand, or this was like her second reign, then you could do something like that and build it up. It wouldn't be like Toni Storm would be the champion for another 6 to 8 months, whatever. She would just be champion for another couple of months, and then you set Statlander on its way again, just as a means of turning Toni heel and changing the dynamic. But I think because it's Statlander's first reign, and also I think that they're not ready to turn Toni heel, and I don't think you should because she is just so popular and over right now. I don't think the act is stale enough yet that you need to necessitate a heel turn. That you have Statlander win, go strong, Toni Storm shakes her hand or eats her out or something to celebrate, and then yeah, you build Statlander up for her next opponent, or maybe both of them are on the same side of the babyface team for Blood and Guts. But yeah, I think that right now you should be concentrating on building up Stat and make her a strong champion.
I agree.
Sorry, I've just realised I should be pointing out some of Tony's predictions. So Tony has said that he predicts Hurt Syndicate over the Demand. He predicts Thekla over Hayter, and he also says Stat over Storm. So he's following along our wavelength as well. So let's go on to another non-title match, tag team match. Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks in a $500,000 cash prize match. So the Bucks' gimmick now is that they only fight for money, and for some reason Tony Khan always just puts them in matches that involve money. So, but they lost the money on the casino, or Nick Jackson lost money in the casino that they won recently, and so they're back to being the broke Bucks who don't get an entrance and don't have a pyro and get their name plates wrong and all of that stuff. And they're taking on the newly reunited team of Jurassic Express. should be a really fun match. These are two great teams, and Jurassic Express has been away for so long. I know they had the squash match recently, but we haven't seen them have a full blown match yet, with a team of the Young Bucks caliber. So we know how good they used to be, and we know how good they can be still individually. So I think that this should be an excellent match. And the Bucks have been having loads of kind of sleeper great tag team matches this year. So I don't expect this to be any different. And you should probably give Jurassic Express the victory because they're back, and everyone wants to sing the entrance theme, and so they want to sing it when they get the victory as well.
I don't think they need the money. That's the issue with it is, okay, if you're gonna do the money, it's Young Bucks up. But I also think they're doing a weird story where it seems like Nick has either a spending problem or a gambling addiction, and he's gonna constantly be the one to blow the money. But I think they're gonna win so they can have money again.
See, I think that it's funnier with like they're the ones that need the money. They're the only ones that the money is attached to. I agree, but they need the money, but that's why they can never get the money. Or like now they've had the taste of money, and we've had the few little weeks where they were back to being like rich bucks again, and then they lost it all, and now they're going to be even more desperate to try and claw it back. So I think that now is the time you sort of like, okay, now no more money, or you're not getting it back now. I envision a scenario. You're right. Jurassic Express don't need the money. So what I think they're going to do is they'll have the money, or they'll have like an amount of money in a bag, and they'll
And
start
they'll just
throwing it out
toss
to the
it out the
crowd.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wish that was at the show that I was at. Just walk away
yeah,
with some free money. Um, yeah, I think this should be a very good match. The
mm.
Bucks are doing an interesting thing right now where they're not a major part of the story and they're kind of just resetting, but they're also having great wrestling matches.
Yeah.
Um,
They've had so many great tag matches already this year. Like obviously Strickland and Osprey immediately comes to mind as well, and they were doing stuff earlier where it was like the back end of the uh, the Elite Takeover storyline. I think that they just they're just having a fun time, having like matches and not being like a real focal point of the show. But yeah, I don't think you need to give Jurassic Express the victory because you need to start heating them back up if you have aspirations of making them tag champions in the future again. And just because it feels like you're cutting legs from under them if their first big match back they lose, even if it is to a team as established as the Bucks.
yeah,
So let's talk about the other tag match that's going to be on the show, which is for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, which is Tag Team Champions Brodido, which includes Bandido, the Ring of Honor World Champion, versus Don Callis Family's Kazuchika Okada, the AEW Unified Champion, so also the Continental and International Champion, and the new IWGP World Champion, Konosuke Takeshita.
the Ring of Honor champion is also in the match.
Yeah, I said Bandido, yeah, the Ring of Honor Champion, so
Yeah, this match is filled with people holding championship belts.
it's like one Mercedes Moné.
Yeah, like actually, it's amazing how many people in AEW are just holding
Loads of
titles.
gold, yeah.
Uh, this should be a really good match. I understand the entire point of the match is the tension between Okada and Takeshita. I'd also kind of like to see them win, just because like they're Okada and Takeshita, and that would be fun to watch. But obviously, they're gonna have some miscommunication that'll lead to a Brodido victory, which will eventually lead to Takeshita Okada, maybe for the IWGP title, maybe this is where we're throwing belts into a pot for the C2, or I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this match because I think that we saw like a little taste of it in their match a couple of weeks ago, which earned Okada and Takeshita this opportunity. And I think that they only went at about 60-70% capacity. I think they'll go the full whack for this one. Now it's on pay-per-view. Brodido have been an excellent like breath of fresh air as a tag team. They complement each other surprisingly well, considering their different like backgrounds and builds. But yeah, the whole story is building up to I think it's pretty inevitable at this point. Now that we know, especially that after Takeshita won the title, he was challenged by Hiroki Goto before, and that will take place before Wrestle Kingdom. So I think, and also Yota Tsuji's now the back to being the global champion, and you have Shota Umino is teaming up, is in a tag team right now with Yuya Uemura, which means that they'll probably be more winning the World Tag League as opposed to, fighting for the World Championship. So that leaves like this giant gaping hole for the world title, and I think it's pretty nailed on at this point, or at least in my headcanon, that it's going to be Okada versus Takeshita for the IWGP World title in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. So unique.
So they're not doing a Dynasty.
No. So
it came out tonight, or not tonight, today, that New Year Dash is back on January the 5th. So they're not doing Wrestle Dynasty.
Do you think that's partly due to the fact that, like, the reason why they did Wrestle Dynasty when they did it is because it took place at a weekend?
It's very possible.
So they might still be doing it, but then might be doing it later.
Right. Like, I think doing it back to back didn't work out as well as people thought it might. It was a fun experiment, and I think you could always do it again, but I'm not sure you need to.
I definitely wouldn't do it in as big a stadium because I think that they definitely burnt out the crowd with the first show. I mean, New Japan is already having a difficult enough time selling tickets to shows as it is. So I think if you are going to do another Dynasty event, then I would do it at a smaller, still a sizable but a smaller arena at some point. But I think that, in this case, you're probably more likely to see more AEW talent, or at least a handful of AEW talent. Or I guess in Takeshi's case, he is AEW, New Japan, and DDT talent on the show in some capacity. So I think that I just don't see any other way they can make a match that is going to attract a big enough crowd unless they just give it to Tanahashi. But even then, we all know that it's Tanahashi's last match anyway. So making it for the world title, does that make it any more of a draw than what it already is?
Right. So,
but back to the tag match itself. I guess the more interesting question is who's the one that takes the pin if Okada and Takeshita lose.
I think it's still Takeshita.
See, I would go with Okada. For no other reason because you want to build Takeshita. Takeshita eventually should be the one who's breaking out of the Don Callis family, going babyface and doing all that cool stuff. And I think that if you have Okada lose, it doesn't. I don't think it deflates his aura too much, especially if it's due to some kind of miscommunication between the two of them. I think that, but it makes Okada more angry than it would make Takeshita upset. I think. And I think then that's the real kind of driving force of Okada trying to force his weight around and getting in Takeshita's face and leading to the change. I mean, either way, it can work. And then there's also the possibility they just become tag team champions for a little while, and they're tag team champions for like a month before passing it off to like a Jurassic Express or a Jet Speed or some other team like that. When you can do the miscommunication, or they lose it in some kind of triple threat tag match where they don't have to take the pinfall.
I think there's a real thing to be said that the Don Callis family is so obnoxious right now that adding more belts would only add to that perception, and it could work for them. But I think people really like Brodido, and I don't know if you take away from Brodido, but at the same time, Frenemy, Okada, and Takeshita having some tag team bangers for like a month and a half isn't the worst idea either. And AEW, look, it's time to just say it. AEW roster is so stacked that they can afford to trade these belts around without having to have a discussion of, oh, they mean less now. No, they don't. They mean more because look at how stacked your roster is.
And also, who can kind of resist the potential of having Takeshita and Okada in your tag team wrestling lineage. Like that championship lineage has
Definitely
those
a
two names
wrestling
in
fan
it.
like Tony Khan. I don't think he would.
So I'm actually looking forward to this because like there is real jeopardy in this one. I think that even though I would go with Brodido, I know you're going with Brodido. I think Tony's also going with Brodido as well. It's definitely not a 90-10% thing. This is definitely like 55-45, 60-40 type thing. Like there is a very real possibility that Okada and Takeshita win this for the Don Callis family.
And I would make the argument that even though I'm going Brodido, the more interesting option is Brodido loses.
So definitely keep an eye on that one then. Talking of the Don Callis family, let's switch over to the TNT Championship. Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. Interesting match because Briscoe's fresh off that big victory over MJF at All Out. Kyle Fletcher has been doing some good work with the TNT Championship. Kind of like his more exciting work recently was challenging for the world title at All Out, but he's still been doing things with the TNT Championship. He's been defending it regularly on like Collision and Dynamite. Had a good defense against Orange Cassidy a little while ago. So I think that the match itself should be really good because Fletcher is just like you can't miss with Fletcher right now. I think he's one of the most consistent guys in wrestling right now in terms of just high quality matches. It's like him, Osprey, Io Sky, that kind of level of just like every match is going to be good to great. And Briscoe can always deliver as well. And Briscoe's a very good, like, sympathetic babyface, as we all know. And I think this one is much more likely that Fletcher wins because I just don't think that it's. I don't think he's someone who still needs to be protected a bit more right now. But it's definitely not out of the question that Mark Briscoe wins the title. It's one of those ones again, which is I'm definitely way more leaning towards Fletcher than I am with like Brodido say. But I think that you could put the title to Briscoe and have them trade it for a little while.
I would make the argument from a pure show perspective that Mark Briscoe should win here. You have a chance for a real feel good moment that you don't really have elsewhere on this card by putting the belt on Briscoe. And I'd also make the argument of listen, AEW, if you go to an AEW show, the benefit is you're going to see a fun show, period. But I'd also say that if you want to create memories and like this is the one. This is Briscoe has been chasing a singles championship in this company. And I think you could have him win here and it just sort of be a good moment. And you don't have to think too hard about, oh, yeah, are you taking away from Fletcher? Because I don't think you are, because everybody knows that Fletcher's already knocking on the door of the World Championship. Not saying he's going to win it soon, but he's already knocking at that door. So I think I would say that while I think Kyle's going to win, I think Mark Briscoe should win.
I think there's definitely an argument to be made that you should be giving Briscoe a big victory. I think that my kind of argument against it would be that you are trying to establish the Don Callis family as like the big bad faction. Like they'll probably overtake the Death Riders eventually once they are fully away from that storyline. So if you are also already having, for argument's sake, let's say Takeshita and Okada lose the match for the tag titles, and then you also have Fletcher lose his title, then the Don Callis family starts to look a little bit not weaker in comparison, but I feel like for a lot of their big matches right now, their big title defenses, their big pay-per-view matches, they should be winning the majority of these because yeah, you can have like Rocky Romero or Lance Archer or Trent lose as often as you like on like Collision or Dynamite or on like pre-shows to the pay-per-views, but I just don't think you should be having many of your big players in the Don Callis family lose that often. So I would say that I would if it was up to me I would go with Fletcher retaining here, but still keep Briscoe simmering in the background, especially leading into the Continental Classic in the near future. But I think for right now, you still keep the title on Fletcher.
I agree. I think there's plenty of reasons to keep the title on Fletcher. I just think that there's also there's something to be said for the show is missing a real feel good moment, and I don't think it's in the main event where I think somebody might die.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that main event soon, but let's talk about I guess the semi-main event, even though it could be the main event, depending on what they decide to do.
This is a toss up, but I wouldn't put the world title on in the main event in this case, given what the other match announced is.
Well, we'll talk about the world title match because it's the match that has probably the less intrigue going into it, which is obviously surprising for the world title. But it's Hangman Page defending against Samoa Joe. I think that we've already discussed this in like bits and pieces about how it's definitely one of those placeholder feuds for Hangman Page in between like finding the next big rivalry for him in his title reign. And Samoa Joe has been in this position before. He's former world champion. He's someone that you can just, flick switch and he's a main eventer, or flick the switch back and he can just be in the trios division or a tag team or in a mentor role or veteran or whatever. But then you just like say, okay, it's time, we need you for the world title, and he just fits in like a glove. And he's already doing his best to, I don't say taking on the heel role, but taking on like a pseudo heel role of questioning like Page's champion status and saying that the only reason he's champion is because the ops have been having his back the whole way through, and he's going to prove that he is the man and that Page isn't the champion that he says he is. And yeah, I think that they've been, it's one of those ones which is, it's clearly fostered an degree of respect, and it's definitely a short-term thing that Page is just going to win and get through. But first of all, I'm looking forward to the match because these two are great, but I think that they're doing a good job with the tools at their disposal.
I agree. I think Joe is such a great champion. Like and it's weird. Like he's in a moment right now where his class is kind of having a bit of shine. Like AJ got the spotlight over in WWE. You've seen a few tributes to the Daniels and that of the world, and Joe's still competing at a high level as well. And I think he's just here to give Hangman a strong win. And I say this respectfully, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't. This just feels like a very WWE setup for a match where it's just like, oh shit, we got WrestleDream coming in 3 weeks. We need a match. You two, you can't coexist. You're the next match with the pay-per-view, and there's not the same like care that would have been put into the um the feud if it was back in the days of the quarterly pay-per-views. But I'm still looking forward to it. I think Hangman will get a strong win over Joe. I think there's also a possibility, and I'm not just saying this because it's Hangman. I'm saying this because Joe can kind of take Hangman into deep water. What if this goes an hour? What if this goes Broadway? Hey, Joe's done it before. Hangman's done it before. They would be a great pair to do it with. I could see a situation where this goes deep, and this is more about having a strong match rather than having a good story.
See, I do agree that there's a possibility, or at least like they could go the hour if the need came for it. I think if that's the case, then this has to main event. I don't think you do an hour-long match and then do like a murder fest afterwards. I think that you risk burning out the crowd a little bit, especially because Joe is a lot more methodical. Like he has like his bursts, but he isn't, especially at his current like age and build. I don't think that he can do a hour-long match in the same sort of dynamism that an Omega or a Danielson can do. Not saying he can't do it, but I think that it's less likely. I think that you'll go with. I think this is more going to be your 20 minutes, like really, really not so like fast paced, but let's just do like the big stuff to each other fairly quickly, and we will just have a more standard match. Like give Page the strong victory. I don't think they're gonna. I wouldn't like end it in a draw. I think you need to this run or this title reign needs to establish Page as the top guy in AEW. I think it's already done a very good job with that so far, but I think you need to continue that and having him draw with, admittedly, like, a guy that is a main event level talent and someone who is seen as a legend, rightly so, in the business. But I think having him not defeat him sets it back a little bit in that trajectory. So
I
I
hear ya.
would, yeah. So I'd say I'd be totally fine with them going along because I think that they are both really good and would have a great match if it went, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. They could make it turn into a really great match. But I think that because they haven't put a lot of emphasis on this one, and it does very much just feel like your standard like placeholder one. That this, if they in the era where they were doing the quarterly pay-per-views, this would be a Winter is Coming match on TV instead. So I think that we kind of need to take it with those sort of vision. Is like, okay, this isn't like your blockbuster main event title feud, but it's a good match with a good challenger for the champion, and they will have fun match. We'll enjoy it, and we'll move on to whoever's next for Hangman. So that's my perspective, anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I also was really of the belief that this should have been held at Title Tuesday, and not just because I was there, but like I think, like you just said, if there's an era not that long ago where this would have just been a Title Tuesday match, and now it's shifting more towards that traditional wrestling. We just gotta get to the next monthly pay-per-view kind of thing.
Yeah. But we'll see what's next Page after this one. But yeah, I definitely don't think that Joe is winning the title here, so I'll go with Page.
I will go with Page as well.
Yeah, and Tony is also predicting Page in his layout as well. So let's get to the other potential choice for the main event, which is Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley in the I Quit match. So, okay, so this is murder time.
Yeah,
Murder o'clock.
so I was at the venue where a man theoretically tried to light a Molotov cocktail. And like, where do you go from a
So,
Molotov cocktail?
so the thematic thing with this feud is obviously this feud's been going on for a long, long time, and we've seen these two like go the extra mile in terms of beating the shit out of each other with like crazy different ways of doing it. Like in their coffin match at All Out, we saw Darby and Mox go like really, really like crazy with some of the violence they were inflicting on each other, and even go back to the Forbidden Door cage match as well. But the main thing going into this I Quit match in particular is fire, because there was fire. Like Allin set fire to the body bag after he lost the match at All Out. Then we've had the Molotov cocktail, and we've had other aspects that basically lead to the presumption that someone is getting set fire to in this match in some form of capacity. I think there's a very real possibility that one of the ways this match ends is one of them is tied up in the turnbuckle corner, and then they set fire to the bottom of their feet or their tights or pants or whatever, and then the flames start licking up at them, and they have to quit before they get burnt alive, essentially. So, that's the point where this has got to, where I'm expecting this match to end in potential immolation.
That's and look, if someone wants to criticize AEW for the sentence that literally just came out of your mouth, there's a part of me that understands, because that's an insane sentence when you're just watching professional wrestling.
Listen, this is not for everyone, and it's not in the case of like the JR thing. This is not ballet. No, some people just don't want to watch people like attempt murder on
Play
each
with
other.
fire, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what everyone's after. However, for the people who do want it, they're gonna love it.
Oh,
And this
and
is what they're
I
waiting
want
for.
it. Yeah, I want it.
Yeah, like, this is what they're waiting for. My issue is I kind of don't want to see either man quit. I because I kind of like we just had that moment with Mox
Yeah, the
at
Page match, yeah.
yeah, where he like literally was a coward and like panicking and immediately tapping out. You know, like we just had that moment. He didn't say the words "I quit," but almost in that way, I almost feel like this was. You can make the argument that this was actually Darby's title to win, where Page won, or maybe this is Page's "I quit" match to be having with Mox. But I think Mox is gonna be set on fire and forced to quit. And I know we've all learned better than to say Mox could take a break, but after you're set on fire and made to quit, don't you take a break? Like maybe a little break
Yeah,
for John.
that maybe. I think that's would be the route that you go with if Moxley were to lose this match, which he probably should do because he beat Allin in the coffin match, and so it would make sense for him to lose this one. I think that if you are having him quit, I think he needs to go away for a while because you keep Death Riders humming in the background with Claudio and Marina being the de facto leaders, or Pac being the de facto leaders, and still getting all this stuff involved before Moxley makes a triumphant return to set them back in the right direction, so they can take a bit of a backseat in the kind of heel pecking order behind Don Callis family as they rise up the ranks towards top main event team. But I think that what you necessarily have to do is, I think if he is to lose, then he needs to go away for a while or I think that even if Allin loses, he has to go away for a while as well because you this is supposed to be, this feels like the feud ender, or it feels like this is the pivotal turning point in the feud, whereas the coffin match had elements of it, but you could understand if Allin was to lose that match, it would still continue going into this one. This one feels like you can't stretch it out any further. This is it. This is an I quit match. This is one person basically submitting beyond just tapping out to each other. This is like one of them saying, "You're better than me. I can't take this anymore. I can't take the pain. Like, I give up." And so I think that's something that would be difficult for either of them to come back to straight away. So I think that's why I think that Allen's going to win, because Allen's been only recently come back, and you have Allen get the victory, can catapult that momentum into, feel like he's done with Death Riders, catapult that momentum into Continental Classic or title opportunities or whatever he plans on doing. Whereas Moxley can go away for a little while, can take a few months off, and then come back feeling reinvigorated. Whether that is still with Death Riders with a different purpose or attitude to him, or that he's there to disband the Death Riders, go back to being a babyface, whatever route they plan on taking with him, I think now's the time to make that transition point. And you can only do that with Allin getting the victory.
I really like. It's so strange. I think I quit is a step because for their characters, to me, I feel like it's a step too far for either. Like it's a turning point in their career if they're made to quit. And I do think it has to be Darby going over though, because Mox has already shown that he can surrender, and I just don't know how it ends. And I expect like the ending of that. You ever see that famous Sting Vampiro thing where like he supposedly gets set on fire, but you can see it's not. Well, I expect
Yeah.
that, but I expect it to be a real person getting set on fire and then tossed off some kind of balcony. Like that's what these men are capable of doing, and that's what they've shown. You know, a niche for in the past, and I think Allin has to win. And if no one gets set on fire, is it almost a bait and switch?
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be the way that they potentially go about it if they decide to end it outside of the ring, which is because they have teased also moments where Allen's threatened to throw Moxley off of a balcony and stuff along those lines. So I could definitely see an instance where Moxley quits because Allen's about to throw him off the balcony, and then Allen decides to just throw him off the balcony even though he quit. and that takes Moxley out of action for a while.
I think that's where we're going.
Yeah. But where does the fire come into it? Where is the fire in that scenario? Unless he's on fire, he falls through a vat of fire, he falls
If
through
there's a
hoops of
close
fire.
enough body of water,
Mm.
can you set him on fire and then throw him into said body of water?
So I think that, as I say, I think that Allin gets the victory here, so he gets to finally draw the line on this one. I think we're all going for Allin. Like you are, Tony's going for Allin as well.
Yeah, I would
So,
say it's definitely Darby.
but at the very least, it should be quite the spectacle, and should involve maybe at least one instance of the hands going over the eyes. There has been at least one instance in the last couple of pay-per-views for AEW where I have had to put my hands over my eyes because I couldn't believe what I was seeing in a gore kind of fashion.
I agree, and I think we're in for a relatively violent-free night because we know that we're gonna go overboard once we get to this match.
So those are our predictions for WrestleDream, which is taking place this weekend. So we'll be back for maybe some iteration of a post show. It won't be a live post show because of Tony's unavailability over in Brazil. But we might pull something together to do like a recording in the day or so after the event. So stay tuned for that, and also another edition of the Hot Tags coming this week, also to be hosted by me and Rob. Hopefully, as weren't able to do so last week because of some technical issues, but we should be, if this has all gone well, we should be fit and firing for the next edition. So, in the meantime, if you have liked what you've heard here and you want to give us your support, you can obviously like the video and subscribe to us on YouTube or through any other podcast format you listen to us. And drop a comment below, of course. That always helps feed the algorithm, gets this podcast shown to some more people to just get your thoughts and feelings about this upcoming show and what you're anticipating to happen at the event. And then you can also help us out monetarily through the Patreon or through the YouTube membership to spot us with maybe like a couple of bucks a month or however much you want to spot us. Get access to like Darkcast episodes and any other things as well. The Pick Your Poison tier at the $50 level. Any amount of money is obviously greatly appreciated, and it's a good way to support us and get access to some bonus content. There's also the Redbubble and TeePublic, where you can buy some Smark at Moment branded merchandise, and you can also just follow us along through things like through social media, through supporting Fanboys Anonymous, joining us on the Discord, any single way you can do to help keep the conversations going and just to support our work and show us you're enjoying what we're putting out there is just, there's many different avenues you can do so. And you can also follow Rob wherever Rob is.
Yep, you can follow me at Dude Felice on the social medias and, check out everything under Mango Tree because I'm always there. Check out Fightful.com as well. And I will be here on Friday for the hot tags.
Yep, and you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings every single Saturday over on smarkatmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And also follow the Fantasy League, which has had a bit of an update after Tony won yet another predictions contest for his for the Crown Jewel show, and he's also made a couple of tweaks to his team as well. I think he dropped Asuka to pick up Solo Sikoa, so follow that stuff along as well. I think in the meantime, I've also, I believe I picked up someone. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. That shows how. I'm kind of like checked out in a way. I'm still running it because like there's always the chance, but Tony's so far ahead that it's becoming a little bit redundant at this point. It's very much a battle for second place between me and Rob.
Is it really? That's unfortunate.
I'll put it this way: he is nearly our scores combined at this point. So yeah, so it would take some monumental effort or some people on our teams to. Well, it would take Bianca Belair maybe showing up, help my team get the victory at some point, because that has been potentially the worst pick I've ever made in a fantasy league is Bianca Belair because I assumed broken fingers wouldn't take 6 months to recover from, but apparently they do.
Callum's trade was Finn Balor for Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, but
which is
apparently
maybe amazing because he traded an active champion for Jacob Fatu, but he probably made the right call. Um, you know, this has been a weird year WWE wise for injuries and stuff. I mean, Seth, we'll talk about on hot tags. It looks like he's might be out. Uh, maybe that helps us a little bit. Tony has Seth, right? Maybe we get some big wins because Tony has Seth.
Yeah, it depends on if he plans on dropping him and if so, for who. But yeah, you can all follow along all the developments of the Fantasy League at www.fantasyleague.com or find it through Smark at Moment to check all that stuff out. And yeah, of course, just follow everything that Tony is doing as well through his writings and all the stuff under a mango tree, as Rob mentioned earlier. That is going to do us in for another edition of the pay-per-view predictions for WrestleDream, and thank you very much for listening. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.